We spoke last time about the Kohen Gadol and about the Tetzaveh and Moshe Rabbeinu. What do you call it? Not his name not being in the parsha. And I want you to turn to. We started on page Perek Chav Ches Pasuk Tetzaveh, 28:15, which is on page 4. Should be 468. Okay. Okay. Now you'll notice 468, and we started speaking about this. The probably the most noticeable or the most attention-grabbing piece of garmentry that the Kohen Gadol wears is the choshen, the chest plate that has 12 stones on it. The gems, the gems of the Kohen Gadol's chest plate. And first of all, this chest plate was worn originally by Aaron HaKohen. And one of the reasons he merited the chest plate, what's called the choshen, which goes over the heart. Does anybody remember why Aaron got, what he did to merit wearing the choshen? It says because he was, you remember?
Wasn't it because he was truly glad?
Yes, excellent. He was happy for Moshe Rabbeinu because when Moshe Rabbeinu, he found out that Moshe Rabbeinu was what do you call it, was going to be the leader, and Moshe Rabbeinu was worried that his brother was going to be, was going to get the honor. Moshe Rabbeinu said, let Aaron be the leader, and Aaron, Hashem said, you got a surprise coming for you. Because Aaron is going to be happy for you. Aaron's going to actually be rejoiced for you in his heart. So since Aaron had a heart, he was happy for Moshe Rabbeinu. His reward was to wear the choshen, which goes over the whole chest, but it covers the heart as well, which is the most glorious piece of. I'll get to you one second, John. The most honorable piece that the Kohen Gadol wears. Number one. Number two, we had also mentioned we had mentioned, and it's worth repeating, that don't think, God, the way they put it is, Hashem does not give out lollipops. It means if you get a reward for something, it means you had to earn the reward. And therefore, if Aaron HaKohen was given this as a reward, and it's obviously a very, very prominent piece of garmentry, because you see that Korach wanted to be the Kohen Gadol and he was willing to die for it, which he did. In this world and the next, so obviously that was quite a reward. It's quite a high-level reward, which means that Aaron wasn't just naturally happy for other people. Aaron obviously was on a very high level, but he had to work to get there. He had to work to get to the point where he is happy for other people, and for that work he's rewarded, because that is very hard work. So that's the lesson of Choshen. Binyamin, what were we going to ask?
If he hadn't been truly happy for Moshe at that time, would he still have worn the breastplate? It's
a good question. It's a good question if he would have earned it some other way. But the Gemara says, based on that, he already earned the breastplate, just for that. It's a good question. What if he wouldn't have been? Hard to know. Could be Hashem would have picked a different Kohen Gadol. That's one of his qualifications. Okay? So we had spoken last about the cities of refuge, about how the Kohen Gadol carries the Jewish people on his shoulders. And now let's take a look at this Choshen. And Pasuk Tetzaveh. Ve'asisa Choshen Mishpat, Maaseh Choshev. Maaseh Choshev, how does he translate it? Of a woven design. A woven design. Kemaaseh ephod dasanu. A woven design like the craftsmanship of the ephod. They're very tricky words to translate. Each one examine exactly what the specific translation is. Zav, tcheles, ve'argaman, v'tolah, shane, v'sheish, v'mosher, ta'asel. So these are the various colors that should be in it. Then he talks about Ravu, it should be square, kuffel, doubled over. Zeres orko v'zeres rochbo. It should be a zeres a half cubit long and a half cubit wide. And then he goes through the 4 rows of stones and he enumerates the stones. Umilesava miluas evan arba turim oven, 4 rows of stones. And then he goes through tur odem piteto varekas atur echad. Now these are various stones, various gems. Ruby, what's he got there? And the Art Scroll just transliterates it. But they're rubies and sapphires and pearls and diamonds, whatever the stones are made out of. Now, very interesting. What was the purpose of the Choshen? What did they do with the Choshen besides it looking very, very impressive? What happened with that? By the way, on Purim, you'll see a lot of little Kohanim Gedolim running around. On Purim, that's one of the popular costumes on Purim. You see a lot of Kohanim Gedolim running around. You'll see a lot of Esthers and Kohen Gadols running around. It's a great shidduch. And Queen Esther's and Kohen Gadols, and you'll see a lot of brides. A lot of kalas running around. You will not see one groom. You will not see one chassan anywhere. There will not be a little boy anywhere on any planet known to man wearing a suit, tie, and dressed up as a groom. I've never seen that happen. Kalas with the white, with the white garment, that you see a lot of. Why not the chassan? I'm not sure. Probably because it's not as outstanding. The kala has a special. The chassan just puts on a new belt and puts on a belt and a tie, and he gets married. She gets all this. She gets all the hoopla around the bride. She wears her thing and this and that, and the chassan just wears a belt. You will see little boys with weapons. That yes, right. The boy, no matter what they dress up as, they will have a Kohen Gadol with a Kalashnikov. You'll see a kid dressed as an astronaut. Kids dressed as an astronaut with some sort of long saber sword that he's got. Because you don't know who you're going to meet on Mars. So the boys doesn't matter as long as they have a weapon. You'll see they have all sorts of weaponry. The girls, it's always either they're a bride or they're a Queen Esther or they're a nurse. Right, all they need is white material, and each year they just cut off a little bit more. First they're Queen Esther with a long train, then the next year cut off a little bit more, then they're a bride, so there's less of a train, then they're a nurse, so they cut off. They just need the white material. One of the things we don't do which people do, is we should not do, is boys do not dress like girls do not dress like boys. There is a prohibition of men wearing women's clothing, although there is a leniency in halacha for what's called Simchas Purim. For Simchas Purim, there's no need to do it, and Kabbalistically, it's not good to put a boy in a girl's uniform, even at the youngest age. I have been very, very particular about this in my home. My girls, Santa Claus, I don't, it's just, they sometimes they don't even know. Sometimes they don't even know. They're not even wearing. The stuff they sell on sukkahs for decorations. If you hear, they sell tinsel. And most people don't know what the tinsel is. We grew up in America. You saw Christmas lights and tinsel and all that stuff. They sell tinsel here as decorations in sukkah. People don't even know what it is, where it came from. They just put it up. Santa Claus also, some jolly guy in a red uniform. Why not? He looks like a chassid anyway with a beard. So why not? When I had my kids in America once, so we took out the video Home Alone. So we were watching at my in-laws' house. So the kids are watching the video. And one of them looks at me. He goes, "Daddy," they have the Santa Claus scene, and he goes, "Daddy, is he a tzaddik?" Well, how is he supposed to know? He sees a guy, he's a little kid, sees a guy with a long white beard, dressed in red, so it's a little off the Haredi color scheme, which is blacker, and blackest. It's okay, it's off a little bit. In any event, what was the purpose of this choshen? What did they do with the choshen? The choshen was used for consultations. They would consult the choshen before going to war. If they had individual questions, they would consult the choshen. The Kohen Gadol would ask, and the choshen they had a parchment with Hashem's name, which was inserted between the Yud Kei Vav Kei, which was inserted between the folds of the choshen, and that gave it a certain, I don't like using the word supernatural, but a certain potential of direct communication, and they would consult the choshen. The letters would then light up. And the Kohen Gadol would take the letters, and through Ruach HaKodesh, he would formulate the answer that's coming from the choshen. Okay? Now.
While he was wearing this?
No, he was wearing it. The Kohen Gadol would wear it, and they would consult the choshen, and the letters would light up because each stone had a separate tribe's name on it.
And it would light up.
The letters that formulated the answer to the question would light up or protrude by divine power, and then the Kohen would see the letters, and he would have to unscramble it through Ruach HaKodesh and determine what the answer is. That's how the choshen worked. Now, what's interesting is that the word choshen is the exact same letters in a different order than the word nachash. Nachash is a snake. What is the connection between the choshen and the nachash? What connection could there possibly be between a snake and the choshen? Why is the choshen? Remember, nothing in Hebrew in Lashon HaKodesh, nothing's an accident. What is the connection? What is any sort of relevance between the Hebrew, very good. The Hebrew word linachesh, which is called superstition, nichush, to be superstitious, is prohibited in the Torah. You're not allowed to be superstitious. Isn't it interesting the word nichush is the same root as the word nachash? What's the connection there? What's nichush and nachash? So, for example, the prohibition is anything that is acted on based on superstition is a prohibition. So, for example, if somebody is eating, you're planning a trip, and you're eating, and a piece of bread falls out of your mouth. That's the example Rashi gives. This is brought in the Gemara. Piece of bread falls out of your mouth. You decide, "Oy, that's a bad omen. I'm not traveling today." Then you are transgressing the Torah prohibition of acting on superstition. Somebody who believes, well, it's Friday the 13th, I better not do something today. That is a time-bound superstition. There's the idea, we grew up, everybody always heard Friday the 13th. You know, in the United States, there are many hotels, buildings in the United States don't have, for a few minutes, there are many hotels and buildings in the United States that don't have a 13th floor. They build it without the 13th floor because they believe in America, or they don't have room 13. They certainly don't have room 13 on the 13th floor in many buildings, in many buildings in the United States, because they believe that it's superstitiously bad. People don't step on lines on the sidewalk. Now, if you're just playing a game and you don't step on lines on the sidewalk, but you're not really acting on it, that's one thing. But if you stepped on a line on the sidewalk, therefore said, "Oi, I was going to make an investment today. It's a logical investment, but because I stepped on a line on the sidewalk, I'm not going to do it today." That means you're acting on superstition. That's a Torah prohibition. That's a Torah prohibition. Yeah, go ahead.
That's related because the snake is falsehood. Because he tricked Father into...
You're close. You're close.
Knocked her into it, saying, "See, you can touch it and nothing happens."
You're close.
And this superstition is falsehood.
You're close. You're in the right neighborhood. What do you say, Alex?
Is it to do with the way the letters are rearranged to be?
Not as much. Not as much. No, not as much. It's very. You're on the right track. You're on the right track. You see, the idea is like this. What did the first snake do? The first snake tried to tell Adam and Chava, God gave an order. It's not binding on you. What are you worried about God's way? You can touch it. Don't worry about that order that God gave. He said, don't eat from the fruit. I didn't mean this. There's no direct communication between you and God. There's no, what kind of nonsense is that? There are commentaries that say that the original snake symbolically is the animal in man. The animal in man has a conversation with Chava. He says to Chava, you got this idea of morality. Where do you get that nonsense from? You are no different than any other animal. If it looks good, smells good, and tastes good, you indulge. There's no such thing in the animal world as an animal restraining himself on principle. If a lion doesn't eat a zebra, it's not because he's working on his mitos. If a lion doesn't eat a zebra, it's because the lion's not hungry or he couldn't catch the zebra. Not because I could catch the zebra and I'm hungry, but you know what? I should really work on myself. It's not nice. It's inconsiderate. That doesn't exist in the animal world. No, there's no code of morality in the animal world. A guy once asked me, I think I told you, a guy fell into the water off the coast of the Gulf of Mexico somewhere. He was surrounded by sharks. So a ring of dolphins surrounded him, protected him from the sharks. They beat up the sharks and they escorted him off, the Hatzalah committee escorted him off the dry land. So the guy asked me, did the dolphins get rewarded for that? Right? It's a good question. Do they get a reward? They saved a human life. The answer is there was no forethought that. It's not like, hey guys, let's be good. It means dolphins are pre-programmed to fight sharks, which they do. And dolphins are pre-programmed to surround a human being. You know what I mean? It's not like, oh, good, let's do it, because the next day a dolphin could go and chomp a human being if he's in a bad mood. It has nothing to do with free choice. Animals don't work on free choice. A human works on free choice. This nachash is a snake inside of man. The animal in man is telling Chava, what kind of nonsense is that? It looks good, smells good, and tastes good. You have this idea of, but ideologically we shouldn't eat it. That's what the nachash stands for. Nachash stands for a contradiction, an impediment between man and God. What do you mean a direct God? You're not accountable. Where'd you get this nonsense from? What are you daydreaming or something? What is the choshen? It's exactly the opposite. The choshen is the concept of you are being directly communicated with God and being given direct instructions. The opposite of what the nachash stands for. Even more, what is superstition? What is superstition really? Superstition really, why is it prohibited? Because superstition says that God's not running the world. There's fate, there's chance. That's why Haman casts lots. Because Haman is also the idea of, well, you know, there's no God here. What kind of direct divine providence? Where'd you get that idea from? It's ridiculous. That's what Haman stands for. You want to see something incredible? You know what the Gemara asks? The Gemara says, where is Haman alluded to in the Torah? Did you ever hear that question? The Gemara asks that. Where is Haman? Haman is a descendant of Amalek. But where is Haman alluded to? Take a look back, gentlemen. Take a look back in the Big Blue Book, page 16, Pasuk Yud Aleph. After the original sin, God calls to Adam Rishon, verse 11. It's 7 lines from the top. 7 lines from the top, page 16. Vayomer, Hashem says to Adam Rishon, Mihi gidlecha ki erom ata. Who told you that you are naked? Hamin ha'etz asher tzivisicha leviltiachom me'onochala. Did you eat from the tree which I told you not to eat from? Look at the word hamin. Hamin is the exact same letters as what? Haman. So the Gemara says, where's Haman alluded to in the Torah? Well, it says Hamin, which is the same letters as Haman. Oh, that's quaint. What does the Gemara mean by that? What does the Gemara mean by that? What the Gemara means is that very tree which Haman himself stands for, not obeying the command. Because Amalek stands for no God, no command, no responsibility. God says, did you eat the tree that I told you not to eat from? That's exactly where Haman's alluded to in the Torah. Because Haman is the idea of disobeying because there's nobody to obey. That's why he throws lots. That's why he throws dice, casts lots, whatever means the lots were that Haman used. And that's the idea of superstition. What does superstition mean? Superstition means it's all fate. And if a piece of bread fell out of your mouth, you know, the Gemara says, if a black cat crossed your path, bad luck. Well, frankly, I think some of those superstitions started from very logical ideas. Some guy was walking and a giant black panther crossed his path, right? The guy got in trouble, you know, and also it's bad luck to have a black cat cross your path. Yeah, well, under many circumstances, if he's black and he's a panther or a puma or whatever it is that they are, yeah, that is pretty bad luck. And it's bad luck to walk under a ladder. You ever hear that? Of course it's bad luck, because if you kick the ladder, the guy's going to fall, and he may fall on you. You know, it's not only bad luck, it's a very logical thing not to walk under a ladder. I would say yes. So I suspect that a lot of these things came from some sort of, what do you call it? Then somebody said, it's also bad luck if you ever see a gang of Hell's Angels blocking the sidewalk on their motorcycles to go up to them and go, blah, blah, blah. That's also bad luck. Yeah, that's very bad luck. The last guy who did that had all his fingers broken. Now, is there cause and effect? You know, yeah, it's bad luck to start up with gangsters. Yeah, that's true. On the other hand, the Torah is telling you superstition is really rooted in the belief that God's not controlling the world. There's some sort of fate. That's exactly the difference between Choshen and Nachash. That's the difference between the Choshen and the Nachash. Okay? Now, let's go on. Take a look at the next pasuk, page 470. It's 4 lines from the bottom on page 470. By the way, the Gemara asks, if superstition and looking for signs is prohibited, so then why was Eliezer, who went looking for a wife for Yitzchak, he also relied on signs? And if Eliezer kept the entire Torah the way the Talmud says he did, so why was Eliezer? He said, well, if a girl comes out and she says, I'll draw water for you, and that's a sign that she's the one you've chosen for Yitzchak. Why is he allowed that sign?
I would think that it's because Abraham told him specifically to look these.
But
Abraham probably got those signs from God directly.
You're touching. Wait, say Isaac.
There's a connection between what the sign is.
Yes. In other words, is exactly what you're saying, Sasha. In other words, there are different signs. There are different types of signs. If I say, well, I got a trip tomorrow. If I see that it's cloudy and thunderstormy, I'm not going. Right? It's a sign from heaven. Yeah, but it's a logical sign. There's a connection to the thing. Yeah, I'm not going to plan the school picnic tomorrow if I see that there's going to be clouds in the sky and it's black clouds and it looks like a thunderstorm. We're not going to make a picnic. That's a sign. I'm not reading as an omen. It's not an omen. It's a sign, a logical sign that you're allowed to look for. You're dating a girl and you're sitting at a restaurant and a bug crawls across the table and the girl goes like this. Right? Now, is that the mother of my children? Is that the girl who I want to be the mother of my children? I don't see the mitos that I'm looking for over here. Well, it's a sign. It's an omen. It's not a sign. It's a, what do you call it? Then the girl pulls out, a credit card and says to the guy, well, take whatever you want because my pappy has money. Now that's a good sign. Now we've got conflicting signs. What do we do? So she signs for it. That's a logical sign. That's a logical sign. That's the idea. The Gemara doesn't talk about a white cat. The Gemara talks about a black cat burning if for a person who wants to make contact with the occult, to see the shadim. There's a way to do it using the afterbirth of a cat and burning it up and taking the ashes and putting it in his eyes. That's not superstition. That's a formula in order to tap into a higher level, a different dimension.
White cat means I forgot already.
The Gemara talks about dreams, when a person has a dream and what dreams mean. But that's not superstition. Again, that's a dream interpretation. This is an actual formula. It's a good question you're asking. Superstition is where something happens totally unrelated, and the person acts on it. That's superstition. Okay. Take a look at page 470. Ve'asisa es me'il ha'efod t'kelil t'cheles. You should make the me'il, which we translate the me'il as either an overcoat or a robe. Okay, because that's actually what it looks like. A robe is because in modern Hebrew, me'il means a coat. People use it in modern Hebrew. People refer to a coat as a me'il. By the Kohen Gadol, the me'il is the robe. It looks like what we would call nowadays a bathrobe or a tunic, but he actually pulled it down over him. He didn't wrap it around and close it in front. He pulled it down. And I emphasize that for a reason. You see, every one of the garments of the Kohen Gadol was an atonement for various sin of the Jewish people. So, for example, the Choshen was an atonement for idol worship, and I think the tzitz, if I'm not mistaken, the golden thing that he wore up there, if I'm not mistaken, that was an atonement for haughtiness, if I'm not mistaken. Every one of the things that they did, one of them was an atonement for immorality for the entire Jewish people. The Me'il, the Gemara says, this is based on the Gemara says that the Me'il was an atonement for the Avera of Lashon Hara.
It looks like a giant talus with a hole in it.
Right, that's what it pulls over. And the Me'il was an atonement for the Avera of Lashon Hara, for inappropriate gossip, slander, derogatory speech. Now, what's remarkable is that we're going to see now in the words of the Pasuk how, in describing the Me'il, how much of a connection there is between the Me'il and speech in general and forbidden speech in particular. So the Torah says you have to follow the words inside now. Ve'asisa es me'il ha'efod kelil t'cheles. You should make the Me'il completely blue. Ve'haya, now look at this, pirosho b'socho. So right there you have the word mouth. The word mouth is a little too openly. It says v'haya pirosho b'socho, which the Artsco translates as you shall its head opening shall be folded over within it. Safa yelapiv, the mouth should have a rim. Now what does that sound like? It's like telling somebody, your mouth could use a rim. Right? That's alluding to the idea of speech. The mouth should have a rim. Saviv. Maase oreg woven kifi sachra, some sort of woven work. Yelo. Lo yikarea. It should not be torn. Now the commentaries say not be torn means it shouldn't be open down the front. So turn to the next page for a moment. The picture that Binyamin had noticed. Turn to the next page. What page is it? No, this the better. It's
467.
467.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a better picture. You see how it pulls over, and it's not open down the front. It's like what we would call a pullover. It's like a pullover. Now, the pullover, it alludes to the idea that the mouth, the opening, should be not torn down the front, shouldn't be wide open, which is a reference to a person's mouth. And the opening should not be torn down the front. And more than that, on that opening, on the round part, there's like a, a hem. That it's folded over and stitched to make a border around the opening, which is an allusion to a person having a border around his mouth. Now, that's the idea of the, what page are we on? 1 second? 470, okay. Now, so it shouldn't be open down the front. Now, watch the next part because it's very puzzling. Pay attention carefully. Ve'asisa al shulav rimone tcheles. You should make pomegranates of blue, ve'argamon purple, v'tolah shani al shulav saviv and red. They're going to be these pomegranates which are round woolen a ball that are going to hang from the bottom of the tunic. Turn back if you take a look at it. Does he have it on the previous? On 467? Yeah, all the way at the bottom. If you in very small, you see those little things hanging at the bottom.
472.
Does it? Where? What page? Oh, 472. Very good. Very good. Okay, so you got the pomegranates hanging there, and he says like this: Saviv, all the way around. Now, pay attention very carefully to these next three words. Upamone zahav besocham saviv. There are golden bells inside them. Now, from the picture, you notice golden bells doesn't mean inside them; it means between them. There are golden bells between the pomegranates. The way it worked was there were 36 of each, and they went around the garment, alternating pomegranate bell, pomegranate bell, pomegranate bell, all the way around. Okay? Now, so Torah says, make sure there's a golden bell between each two pomegranates. Anything strike you as odd about that statement? Okay, this is the way to tell you that they alternate. Okay? But what else? Something else should be odd about it.
The bell makes noise.
A bell makes noise. The bells have little ringers that make noise. But what else? Something about that statement should be puzzling to you. There should be bells between the pomegranates.
Why two pomegranates? Why between?
Excellent. By the same token, if they're around the me'il, and you've got a bell and a pomegranate, well, the bell is between the pomegranates are between the bells. Yet the Torah emphasizes the bell should be between the two pomegranates. So the commentary is right. Alex, right? I mean, why does it? You got to describe it. So just say they should alternate. Like Sasha said, just tell me they alternate, or tell me one bell between two pomegranates, one pomegranate between two bells. Why is it only emphasized? So, as Mr. Fogel said, the bells make noise. The pomegranates are silent. The Torah is telling you if every time you speak, you should be quiet twice. Your speech should be surrounded by silence. It doesn't say the silence should be surrounded by speech. The speech should be surrounded by silence. The pomegranates are silent. The bells are golden. But even more than that. Pamon zahav v'rimon. Now he emphasizes the order. A golden bell and a pomegranate. Pamon zahav v'rimon al shulei amil saviv. On the bottom of the meal, all the way around. Now pay attention very carefully to this last pasuk. V'hoya al Aaron l'shares. It should be worn on Aaron when he serves. V'nishma kolo bevo el hakodesh. His sound should be heard when he enters the holy. Lifnei Hashem uvitzeiso, when he goes out, v'lo yamos, and he will not die. He's got to wear all the garments. Kohen Gadol has to wear all the garments. He's not allowed to go in with any extra or any less garments than these 8 that he wears. He goes into the holy, into the Kodesh, and his voice, the sound of him, the Kohen Gadol entering, should be heard. So the Gemara learns from here, we learn a law in basic human decency. If the Kohen Gadol, when he entered, there was supposed to be a sound that was made to alert God, so to speak, that the Kohen Gadol is coming. It is basic, proper derech eretz that if you ever walk into a house or a room, you knock on the door before you enter. You should knock on your own door before you enter your own home. You don't have to wait. You knock and enter. The idea being that if somebody is there doing something that they'd rather not be seen doing, somebody's picking his ear or he's picking his nose, and all of a sudden, boom, you plunge into the room. So you've caught him in a very compromised position. By giving a knock, it gives him a little for you. And also, it's proper to knock, wait a second, and then enter, even in your own home. And I emphasize to my kids, every single room in the house. Every single way. Don't walk into a room without knocking on the door. It doesn't cost that much. Knock on the door. People in the yeshiva, sometimes just plunge into the room, just open the door and walk in. Hey, maybe there's a shear going on. Maybe somebody's in there. Maybe somebody's sleeping in there. Just give a little bit of forewarning before you go in. That's the first idea. I once read a book years ago. I was a teenager. I read a book. The name of the book was Power, How to Get It and How to Keep It. Some Italian guy wrote the book. So I read the book. The book is basically the antithesis. It's the antithesis of the Mesilas Yesharim. Every bad midah known to man appears in that book. Right? Every bad midah known to man. Exactly, if you want to learn what not to do, read the book. There's one thing that stood out. The one thing I remember to this day. It says if you ever, let's say you're a salesman, and you want to talk to the head of a company, and you want to present your product. So what you do is you walk upstairs, walk right past the receptionist, and just open the door of the inner office. Because if you catch him doing in some sort of compromised position, he'll be uncomfortable in your presence, and you'll have the high ground. So he just wants to get you out as fast as possible so he'll buy whatever you're selling. Isn't that beautiful? Now, I don't know if that works. So the alternative is he may just call a Doberman and and chase you out. So I'm not sure where he claimed that works. You just walk right past the receptionist, just open the door and try to catch him no matter what he's doing over there. Then you've got the high ground. Okay, I don't think so. I think he's more likely to call the police. But whatever it is, that's what the Torah says. That's the first thing we learn. The second thing we learn over here is that V'nishma kolo bevo el hakodesh, that when a Jew approaches the holy things with his mouth, Torah, tefillah, that sort of thing, you know when it'll be heard? It'll be heard if you have this me'il with the golden pomegranates on it. If you got the golden bells, that means when you make noise, the noise is golden. Your words shine, your words are golden, your words are pleasant, your words are proper. Then, v'nishma kol v'vol hakodesh lifnei Hashem. When you open up a siddur, you want to daven and petition HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's the same mouth. And if you use the mouth properly, golden bells, the sounds you make are gold. Then HaKadosh Baruch Hu will listen to you when you daven. If you soil your mouth, you use your mouth for inappropriate things, or lashon hara, filth, smut, whatever it is, crudity, then it affects the kli, it affects the utensil that you're offering the tefillah with. And therefore the Torah says, "V'nishba kol el hakodesh lifnei Hashem, uvetzeiso v'lo yamus." It won't die. All right, gentlemen.